This morning we want to continue and put a pin in it for right now, our series dealing with finances. The response to our initial message was really positive. You know, sometimes in churches, this is considered the third rail. But I would take my cue from those that responded to the message. If anybody did not like the message, typically they don't come and tell you they didn't like it. They just tell their friends they didn't like it and go about their business. But those that did appreciate it expressed their appreciation, but that won't stop me from speaking on the subject. Because we need it. I remember Reverend Brown would say, when he had one of those woodshed messages, he would say before he preached that this may not be a shouting message today. Now, whenever Reverend Brown said this may not be a shouting message today, he about to take you behind the woodshed and deal with you. But it's not intended. But as I said last time, you may need to curl up your toes because I'm going to be walking down your aisle a little bit today. And I might step on your shoe. But it's all in an effort to get us to a place of financial freedom. And as we enter Christmas, Christmas has a way of derailing everything we worked for all year long. Somewhere in the psyche of the American, there is this, even for the non-religious, there is this concept of making Christmas. And everybody believes that in order to have a good Christmas, you've got to spend a lot of money to make a lot of ungrateful people temporarily happy. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that Christmas came so that we could make the merchants rich. But who promotes buying and selling at Christmas? The merchant. Do you realize it takes months? Listen to this now. It takes months for a cargo ship to leave China, make it across the Pacific to California, to be unloaded, to be in the store in time for Christmas. Which means there is a strategy and a plan to separate you from your money that started way before Christmas. Are you with me? See, when you show up at Walmart and there's stuff on the shelf, that stuff on the shelf started 3-4 years before it got to the shelf. It takes a month just to get across the Pacific, one of them big old cargo ships, to get here for you to have your stuff. What am I saying? I'm saying there's forethought. Somebody is thinking about how to separate you from your money long before you get your paycheck. Right? One of the greatest tragedies of our culture is our obsession with stuff. The consumer price index. We've all heard that term. We're a consumer nation. Everything is built on consumption. You drive down any street, there's store after store after store after store. We are consumed with consumption. The pursuit of happiness is better translated the pursuit of stuff. In America, the notion of ownership is sacrosanct. It's my car, my house, my this, my the next. But one sign of our obsession with stuff is the proliferation of self-storage units all over the state. You drive any town, any city, almost any new construction going up right now is a storage unit. What are they putting in those storage units? Stuff. Mostly what? Junk. You can't hold it in your house anymore, so you pay money to store junk. Things that you will never go back for. Any of you ever watch on YouTube or TV, what do they call Storage Wars? People just put them in there and they pay and they pay and they pay to store junk. I want to introduce you to a place off of 579 here in Tampa. If you go up I-4, exit 10, you know, rooms to go is on that side. You get up to the top, you make a left, and about a mile down the street, you make another right, and that's called the city dump. Instead of going to the storage unit, you need to go up there and just get rid of it. You already paid for it in taxes, so you don't have to pay to dump it, and you don't have a monthly fee because it's gone. I hope I'm helping somebody this morning. I hope I'm helping somebody this morning. Right on the corner of Forbes Road and I-4, exit 17, there used to be a, what do you call it, vegetable market, what they call it, roadside produce stand. Forbes Road Produce. They've been there over 30 years. Just recently it was announced that it was sold and it was closing. Well, it was closing. It was sold, it was closing. And I drove by just the other day and they were there dismantling the produce stand. And someone in the comment section said, well, I guess one or two things going there, an apartment or a storage unit. Because that is where we are. So how did we get here? This obsession with things. Last time we spoke, we talked about transferring ownership. You see, because if I own it, I have a certain attitude. Once we've transferred ownership of all that we have to God, we must then learn how to manage God's resources. A big problem in the church is that members come from the community. And if it's in the community, it's in the church. We're not so different than the people among whom we live. And so around 80% of Americans are in debt. 80% of Americans are in debt. Out of every 100 people, 80 of those people are in debt. 40% of Americans have been in credit card debt for more than 5 years. Some of you have been carrying around that monkey on your back forever. You've never had a zero balance on your credit card except for when it first came in the mail. That's it. In fact, somebody told you that it shouldn't have a zero, because that's your lifeline to the big life. So on that credit card, you're still paying off that hamburger you bought 6 years ago. You're still paying it off because you're paying minimum payments every month, minimum payments. And do you realize that the credit card company love you? You're the best thing since sliced bread. Just pay that $25 every month and we good. We good. You only have to pay $25. 47% of Americans have not been debt-free since 2018. 14% since 2013. 11% since 2008. And 15% haven't been debt-free since before 2008. Here's a statistic for you. In 2022, last year, consumers accumulated a record-breaking $180 billion with a B dollars in new credit card debt. Nearly half added that in the fourth quarter of last year, bringing the average household balance to $9,990. Call it $10,000. And so the average credit card owner owes $10,000 on that credit card debt. If you pay the minimum, you will die, your children will die, and your grandchildren will die before you pay that off. But that's what they want. That's interest that they get on the credit card. For your privilege of going to that Beyonce concert that you couldn't afford, but you put it on the card. This is not a message many people are used to hearing in church, but it's one that most people need to hear. The average member in any church, in any city, on any street is facing financial struggle. And I will say today, there are people looking at me right now, you are living the proverbial paycheck to paycheck. In fact, the way you're living right now, there is always too much month at the end of the money. And so I want to help you today. I want to help you. I want to give you some reasons why people struggle financially and how you can deal with that in your own life, because it causes stress, broken relationships. It's not an innocent thing to be in debt. And so there are 4 reasons I want to share today. 4 reasons people struggle financially. Number 1, you're going to say, duh. Number 1, not enough income. There's not enough income. I mean, let's be real. You're struggling because you don't have enough coming in to take care of your needs. In 1 Kings chapter 17, we have this story. Beginning in verse 7, it's the story Elijah shares. He says, sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, that is to Elijah, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink? As she was going to get it, he called, and bring me, please, a piece of bread. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread. Only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said, but first make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. What audacity. Good night. And make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. Now, before you get to shouting, I tell you, we're going to be real. Before you get to shouting, the miracle is not the rule. The miracle is not the rule. See, it's not enough to come to church on a Sunday morning and you cry and, oh, God, help, I need your help. And the next thing you know, someone gives you a check in the mail that you didn't expect. You're like, oh, yeah, God came through. But you know what? The miracle is not the rule. You can't expect next week to get the same check to come in the mail that you didn't expect. Yeah, God did it for you, but you know what? That's not the rule. Right. And so we've got to live on earth. The Bible says it is God who gives you the ability to produce wealth. God gives you the what? The ability means in the ability there is a process to get to where you want to get to. And I'm the preacher, and I'm going to tell you really, it don't come just by crying out, God, I ain't got enough money, send it through the mail. Otherwise, we'll all stay home and nobody work. And so here's some reasons why there's probably not enough income coming in. This is not a condemnation. This is simply an observation. Number one, you're undertrained. You're undertrained. You're underqualified. And you're living in that space without the motivation to better your condition by getting better training. I deal with folks all the time. The money's not enough. I ain't making enough, Pastor. I ain't making enough. Well, what are you doing to make enough? Maybe it's time to go into a certification program. Upgrade your skill set. Maybe it's time to go back to school so you can be better equipped. You can't sit on your laurel and simply say, the man ain't, look, the man this and the man that. And, no. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. Maybe you need to get out of your own way. And I'm not talking about getting a PhD. I'm simply saying, listen, do you know what a underwater welder makes? An underwater, that's down at the port of Tampa. When those ships come in to be repaired down there, they can't, most of the time, they don't lift them out of the water. You got to go under that water. A welder, if you ain't scared of underwater, you can make some good money. So my point is this. I'm not talking about being a doctor. I'm talking about being a lawyer. I'm just saying, do you realize that one of the most lucrative professions in America are plumbers? Because like Reverend Brown used to say, almost anything else in my house could go out, but don't let the plumbing go out. So my wife won't let me rest until the plumbing's fixed. And don't call the plumber at night, you're in trouble. Some of them will come, but you're going to pay the price for him to come and take care of you at night. What am I saying? You may be undertrained. It's time to upgrade your skills toolbox. Every day that you procrastinate is a day wasted in pity and disgust. And so if you find yourself not having enough money to pay your bills, it's time to upgrade your skills. That's one thing. The second thing is maybe you're underemployed. And what that means is you have more ability than the job that you're in. There's a mismatch between you and your job. So what do? You need to get the resume updated. You need to get the resume out there. You need to start networking, talking to people, trying to get you in a better position so that you can earn more. Spruce the resume up. You may need to get a second job. When we were little, my mom worked at the phone company. And she would get up and go to the phone company, and she'd work, get off at 5, or whatever she got off at the day. And then she would go and work with we used to call them a Shake Shack. And they'd sell back then chicken and burgers and stuff. And a friend of hers owned a chicken shack. And my mom, she'd work at the phone company all day, and then she'd get off work, and then she'd go to the chicken shack and get home 10 o'clock at night to earn extra to get us to where she wanted to be. Here's the thing, folk. Sometimes, and I know some of you do it, some of you work 2, some of you got 3 jobs. But see, what you're trying to do is what? Answer the, I don't have enough issue. I don't have enough problem. And everybody faces it. Life goes through stages. Nobody is ever at the same place all of their life. Paul says it. I know what it is to abound. That means to have love. I know what it is to be abased. I know what it is to go without. Life is in seasons. And sometimes you're in a good season where the money's rolling in, you're doing well, and then maybe you lose the job, the business closes, whatever, and so you find yourself in a setback. But a setback is only permanent if you allow it to be permanent. You can make room, make provision to move ahead. And so if enough is not coming in, you've got to do something about that. Number 3, you need to be willing to relocate. You need to be willing to relocate. Sometimes we're not ready to go, even when God may be nudging us to go. You know, God uses circumstances to get us to where remember he told Abraham, he said, Abraham, I want you to leave this country and go, and I'll tell you when you get there where you're going. Sometimes we have to be open, is what I'm saying, if it means taking care of you and your family. Because one of the things that happens when we don't have enough is our life gets sour and we get bitter, we get resentful. It's just human nature. How come they got it and I don't have? And we start blaming everybody and we get in this morass of bitterness. But it comes because we're not willing to open ourselves to what God would have us to do or where He'd have us to go. So number one, the first thing is there's not enough coming in. And this lady, the lady at Zarephath, that was her problem. She didn't have enough coming in. Her husband had died. But I didn't want to focus today on the miracle, because the miracle in this situation is a one-off. But guess what she was doing when he found her? She was out finding sticks. Right? She was engaging. She was trying to make progress so that she and her son, even though there was despair in her voice, what she say? We're going to eat this and then we're going to die. Now you've got to understand that in those days, a widow was the least protected. And so in her mind, she had seen women whose husbands had died and their lives just spiraled out of control. And she says, I'm one of them. But God came in to revive her and say, no, it's not over. I'm still in the midst. But I've stepped by to say to you today that the miracle is not the rule. And so there's some things that you can do personally to make it better. But the natural consequence of low income is the accumulation of debt. Debt because you can't pay your bills. But even people with adequate income are in debt. And debt is a problem. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 25-33, we have this account. It says, therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed, which means he's in debt, him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master had ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay back everything. The servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. But when that same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. I want you to understand this now. 1,000 bags of gold, 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, please be patient with me and I'll pay it back. But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were outraged and went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. You wicked servant, he said, I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant as I had on you? And so here what I'm going to do again, I'm going to take a side road rather than go directly at this text. And what I want to say to you is just that man was in debt, you may be in debt this morning. And you've been in debt. It's so high, you probably become numb to it. You don't answer calls. This is life. I'm gonna die. I'm born broke, gonna die broke. That's just it. I'm in debt. You just whatever. And you just live. But many of you are laboring under the enormous weight of debt and it's robbing your joy. You're distracted. Your days are filled with angst. You're so happy that you don't have to answer the phone because collectors are calling you and you try to avoid it, but it robs your sleep, it disturbs your peace, it hurts your health, and it destroys your relationships. Because money is known as one of the leading causes of divorce in America. It's estimated that financial problems contribute 20 to 40% of all divorces. That means for every 10 marriages that end in divorce, 4 of them are because of money. But this morning, what does debt look like for you? Let's put it where we can grab a hold of it. Let's put it where we can name. Some of you are house poor. Say, Pastor, what do you mean house poor? You have a house, but you're house poor. In other words, everything you make is going into the mortgage. You got nothing left. I started watching the movie The Big Short this weekend. Some of you might have watched The Big Short. It's about the housing crisis that happened in 2008. And part of the housing crisis problem was that unqualified people were being given loans. Do you remember the liar loan? There was literally a loan process called a liar loan. Yes, just what I said, liar loan. Lying about your assets in order to get a loan. Mortgage brokers were literally falsifying applications in order to qualify you to get a loan. And most of those were also adjustable rate mortgages, which means during that period, and I observed that we had folk in our church and out of our church moving out to Brandon, moving out to Riverview, moving out to New Tampa, moving to all these places in these houses, and they were paying interest only, but they were adjustable. And you know what happened eventually? They were in there, oh yeah, man, this is like 100% to income, whatever it was. They were living large out in the burbs. The rate adjusted, and they were paying $1,500. It went to $2,000. They were already tight on the 15. Now it's 2, and they couldn't afford it. Foreclosure. Housing crisis happened, and it happened because people were house poor. And what house poor means is you got into a house you couldn't afford. Then we said, the world's gone mad, but you didn't really count the cost because some slick broker talked you, and we're going to get to how that happens, but talked you into doing it. Well, my point is, some of us are house poor, some of us are car poor. I think more of us are car poor than house poor. Those nice fancy cars on the stoplight that you bought in order to impress people you don't know. I can hear you now, but Pastor, I lease mine. Well, that's worse. Somebody here, talk to somebody that leased a car. When you turn that car back in, not only did they get you coming, they got you coming and going. See, because here's what the salesman tell you. Man, you can get into this. You can get into a better car by leasing it. Don't you want to get into a better car for less up front? But less up front ain't the whole story because there's a back end. What happened after you run out of the mileage allotted on the lease? Anyway, this ain't a class on leasing and mortgages. My point, though, is that we've got to wake up. You're in debt because you're a consumer and an uneducated consumer. You don't understand that the guy in the finance room at the car dealership is not your friend. He is friendship to his paycheck, not to you. Don't go there. Much of us, we get nailed too, bro. Because we think we so smart. Let me tell you something, man. Them car dealer guys, you think you smart. Them dudes good. They good. You come in there thinking that man, by the time you leave with it, you rolling in this nice thing. And oh, goodness gracious, what did I just do? We talked about credit cards. Most people are not disciplined enough to use credit cards properly. Almost everyone I know get into a credit card, says I'm going to pay it off at the end of the month. But now you're $9,000, $10,000, $15,000 in credit card debt that you said you were going to pay off every month. See, it's easy to skip it because nobody hounds you. Things get tight at the end of the month. Oh, I don't have to pay my whole credit card bill. I just pay the minimum. And I'll put that money on something else, and I'll come back to it next month. Well, next month you're still short, so you do it again. Next month you're short, so you do it again. Next month you're short, so you do it again. Until before you know it, it keeps rising. The next one I'm going to get in trouble on, but I'm going to get in trouble anyway. Some of y'all got student loan debt. Student loan debt that you think the government going to pay off for you. It ain't going to happen, not in this lifetime. You need to get it in gear and pay off your debt. You need to get in gear and pay off your debt, just like you promised when you took out the loan. Now, let me share something with you. And I've said this before in our church family. Do not sign student loans. But Pastor, how are we going to go to college? Find you a part-time job, work part-time, and go to school. Or work full-time and go to school part-time unless you can get scholarships. People are crying about hundreds of thousands of dollars in college student loan debt. Let me ask you a question. Which bank do you know on the face of this earth that will give a 18-year-old young person a $100,000 loan for whatever? But our government decided to back the loan, to guarantee the loan. Therefore, every college in America is just writing loans, just writing loans, just writing loans, just writing loans. Why? Because the government said, we'll back it. That same 18-year-old could not even get a loan for a new car. They can't get a $30,000 loan for a car, but they can take out $100,000 to go to college. Makes no sense. And then you get out of college, and you're making $40,000 a year, and you can't pay back the loan. It makes no sense. And part of the problem is that parents allowed it to happen. It's not the kid, it's the parents. Parents allowed it to happen. I know it's unpopular, but that's okay. It's the upfront decision that was the problem. The average job in America, the average person in America is $65,000 a year. That's the average. You take the whole America, $65,000. What? You get this degree and you'll be able to make six figures. Blah, 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 blah. Listen, the average makes how much? So unless you're the exception, thank you, bro. What I'm saying to you folks is this. We have to be smart. You have to be smart. It's okay to take longer to get through college without coming out with all this burdensome debt. Maybe you need to go to community college for the first 2 years, then transfer. But I want to go with my friends. You're the parent. No. You go this way, you going. Now, if you can afford it, that's different. But you can't just let your kid tell you he want to go out of state. That's another thing. Why do you need to go out of state and they got good schools right here in Florida? And you get a Florida rate. Think about it, folks. Think about it. You can't hang your basket higher than you can reach. The Bible says, owe no man anything except to love one another. So let's hasten on. I've been on that way too long. The third category of individuals are the disorganized. Your money troubles come because you're not organized. In Luke chapter 15, there's the story of the woman who loses the coin. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. And here's the thing. I'm going to stretch this one even further than I stretched the other two. In this one, she lost. And we lose stuff all the time. But my premise here is that she couldn't find it. She didn't know where it was. Most of you don't know where your money goes. You're disorganized. You spend the grocery money at the restaurant, at the beauty parlor, and then when the rent's due, you're short because you took the rent money and went out last night with the girls, and now you in a fix because your life is disorganized. And I want to suggest to you today that you need a spending plan. Some people call it the B word, a budget. You need a spending plan. Dave Ramsey says you need to tell every dollar where to go. Before the month begins, you need to know just where every dollar that you're bringing in is going. Where is it going? I tell you, if most of you do, and I do this every time, when I do premarital counseling, one of our sessions on premarital counseling is you have to produce a budget, a prospective budget for your household. Now, sometimes I know they're fudging because most people are in debt. And if you put what you make versus what you spend, it will shock you how money just goes. When you organize your finances, you organize your life. Don't be like the lady that, when people wrote a lot of checks, her check bounced, and she got mad. And when they asked her, well, you know, you have any, or told her, you have no money in your account. She said, but I still have checks. Yeah. But some people think as long as you got checks, you got money. Can I suggest some help for you? We're getting close to the end. Can I suggest something for you, how you think about your own personal finances? It's called taking care of the four walls. Taking care of the four walls. Number one, you need to make sure you have food. Okay? You need to make sure you have food. Number two, utilities. Pay your light bill. Pay your water bill. Shelter, pay your rent. In fact, these are not necessarily in the order, but my order would be shelter first. That'd be my first one. My first would be shelter. I tell people all the time, if the power company turn off the lights, at least you can get candles. But you got a roof over your head. That's the point. At least you got a roof over your head. You can see. Some of y'all don't understand. When I grew up, we had kerosene lamps. We had kerosene lamp. That's what you did. I went to the store. Mama, boy, go down to Miss Roll's shop and get me a gallon of kerosene. And you go down, you walk down, and you could buy you a little packet of cookies on the way for going. I go on the man, I'm happy to go. We'll get my kerosene, buy me my little packet of cookies. I'm eating my cookies, going home with my kerosene. And that's what you use for lanterns. Now, if you got shelter, when you close your door at night, nobody knows you're using candles, but you got a shelter. A place to lay with you and your kids, a place to be warm and safe. Take care of that first. I'm going to tell you the story and it's going to blow your mind in just a second. And then transportation. So 4 things: shelter, food, utilities, transportation. Everything else can wait. If you're in debt, the debt collector can wait. I think you ought to pay, but don't pay him before you pay your rent man. Can I get an amen? Amen? Okay. Pay the rent man, because when you pay that, it takes stress. Do you know what to be trying to live from sofa to sofa, to beg people for a place to staying on the street? No. If you have a job and you have the ability to do it, get your rent paid first. All the other stuff can come behind it, but make sure you got a place to lay your head. I was going down the street one day, and as I was going on the street, I saw this thing ahead of me. And it was, as I got closer, I realized it was a lady that was laying on the ground, on the sidewalk, right? So on the street corner, she was laying on the ground. And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, I wonder, what's going on? So as I get closer, I'm looking over, because now you're curious. Why is she laying on the ground and what's going on with her? And she had like a backpack or something under her head, so she was actually there and the leg was crossed, laying on the ground. And as I got right up next to the lady, I said to my wife, you wouldn't believe this. That lady's hair was laid. She had just come from the parlor. It was laid. I mean laid. I mean, it was gorgeous. I was blown up. I'm like, what in the world's going on here? I don't know her circumstances. I don't know what happened, but it was funny. It was because after I saw her hair, I stopped feeling sorry for her. When I saw her, I was like, oh my God, this lady's laying on the ground. When I saw her hair, I'm like, oh, she wanted to lay on the ground because that hair looked too good. But folks, we need a budget. You need a budget. You need a budget. You need a budget. You need to tell your money where to go. And don't spend what you don't have. The final point encompasses most of this, and most of us are financially illiterate. That don't mean stupid. It means unknowing. We just don't know. We weren't taught it. Some of the stuff I'm telling you is how you grew up. That's how you grew up. Hand to mouth, come, go. Nobody's paying attention. Everybody just whatever they do. And so you're illiterate about financial matters. Here are 10 shocking statistics about NFL stars facing bankruptcy in 2024. Over 60% of retired NFL players go bankrupt within 5 years of leaving the league. That's millions upon millions of dollars. The average NFL career lasts only 3.3 years, leaving players with a limited earning window. Do you remember years ago, there was a story out of one of the Spinks brothers, I think it's Michael Spinks. Remember the boxing brothers? I think if it's not Michael, if it's the other one, forgive me. But there was one of them that the story came out that he was, at that time, a janitor at a high school, cleaning the gym and doing what you do. And this is after making millions as a professional boxer. Our problem isn't what we make, it's what we do with what we make. I told you the last time I spoke to you, the average, I shouldn't say this, one of the greatest one of the professions that have the largest number of millionaires is the teaching profession. And I know some of you look at me crazy, like, you don't teach in Florida, do you? No, the point wasn't that. The point, though, was that many of those people lived frugally and were disciplined. They knew they weren't making a lot, and so they made the most of what they had. And so we need to do that. And so financial illiteracy or ignorance. Remember the story in Matthew 25 of the king that gave gold to his servants, the talents, the story of the talents? And the one at the end who buried it in the ground because he said his master was mean. He didn't want to. He didn't understand that if he would just trust the process. Trust the process. Most of us have been lulled into this false sense that I'm going to hit it big one day. That's how I'm going to get I'm going to get mine because I'm going to hit it big one day. I want to tell you something. The house never loses. I had somebody ask me one day, Pastor, if I win, would you take any of the money for the church? And I says, well, the Bible says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous, so. Praise the Lord. But there was a word that they used to me. They said, Pastor, if I win. If I win. You see, we have to train ourselves to do what's right. And I will say this, there are people walking and sitting among you who've done it right. They don't brag. They're not driving the fanciest of cars. They're not doing any of that stuff. But they've done it right. And they're in a position where they can take care of their needs, of their families, and themselves. I feel like I'm in a barrel guy. Help me out a little bit here. The servant was ignorant about how to invest, or at least he was unwilling to do it for fear of losing what he had. He crashed the car because he didn't know how to drive. And many people crash financially because they don't understand finances. I'm not talking about Wall Street stuff. I'm not talking about invest. That's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about simple money management. How do I handle what God's given me? Financial education is seriously lacking in our homes and our churches. Some years ago, when I was the youth pastor, I came up with what I call a fully discipled student. And I started with the end in mind and tried to work back. And one of the qualities or one of the things on that was for that student, when they graduate out of the church's program, that they would be financially literate, that they know how to manage finances. And we need to teach our children. Sometimes we don't teach our children. When my kids were little, I think I tell the story. I went into the bank the other day, and the lady was there and was telling me she remembered me from when I used to bring my little boys in with their little savings book, and they'd put their money in the account. And I made them do it themselves, made them go to the counter, give the lady your book, give the lady your money. She put it in, and then to get back, and he'd be able to see where the money added up in his little book. That's what I wanted them to be able to not be afraid of that stuff, to understand it, to know that you can't spend everything you make. And they had a little plan. Parents, they had jars we had for them, and they'd put savings, giving, fun, right, all in their little jars. So they knew that whenever they got something in, if grandma gave them some money for their birthday, they had to split the money up. They had to give some to Jesus. They had to put some in the bank. They put some to spend, and then they saved some for something that they wanted, like something that was big. And so they could accumulate to get that big thing. And then they had, and that's what we tried to teach them. You need to be teaching your kids. That's how you ought to be living. That's how you ought to live as an adult. Give Jesus his portion, right? You take care of your bills. You have some fun with it. You save for those things that are coming down the road. You can't consume it all every week. Delayed gratification is a sign of an adult. Folk can't, you can't, folk come by, what you doing tonight? Shall we going out to eat? You got to be able to say, I can't go tonight. You can't, we talk about peer pressure. You can't be an adult and just because your friends say, let's go out, you know you got bills tomorrow. But because you want to be a part of the crowd, you go along and you spend more than you wanted to, and then you come back and now you got to go to cousin so-and-so to help pay the rent. Okay, I'm almost done. A word to married couples. A word to married couples. Stop living as roommates. See, when roommates get together, sometimes one pays the light bill, another one pays the water bill. They split the rent. That's roommates. They got their own separate accounts. That's roommates. But married people don't share bills. Married people don't share bills. They shall become. And here's the issue. If you don't trust your mate enough to combine your income, you don't have a financial problem, you have a marriage problem. If you don't, and I've heard it, Pastor, they're not good with money, or Pastor, I can't trust it. Well, that's not a money problem, that's a marriage problem. And you need to fix the marriage problem so that you can fix the financial problem. Right? But he, you know, I like people, we behind on the rent because he ain't paid it. What you mean he ain't paid it? Y'all didn't pay the rent. But she ain't been paying the car note. What you mean she ain't been paying the car note? Y'all ain't been paying the car note. Together. You can't live separate lives and expect it to work. You've got to put it together. And so I close with 4 things. Let me reiterate. Number 1, if you find yourself in financial struggle, oh boy, you got to seek ways to increase your income. Seek ways to increase your income. That's on you. That's on you. It's not going to come from anywhere else. It's from you. You got to do it. You can't borrow your way out of it. You can't beg your way out of it. You got to figure out how to increase the income. Number 2, you got to eliminate personal debt as quickly as possible. Start getting rid of debt. Start dumping debt. Start paying it off. What a freedom comes when you don't have to worry about debt. And if you need some help, Dr. Daniels, there she is right there. Deacon Sean Bridges, they can help you. Call the church office if you don't remember their names. We literally have a program at the church to help you. But you need to be willing to be helped. Number 3, get on a budget. Here's how budgets work. Number 1, figure out how much you're bringing in. Figure out how much you're spending. And see whether what you bring in is less or more than what you spend. I would guarantee you that 80 or more % of us are spending more than we're bringing in. Right? And we mask it. One big way we mask it is through the credit card. That's how we pretend we're spending less when we're really spending more. And number 4, spend time educating yourself on money matters. Right? We're not talking about going to financial planner school, but we're talking about the basics. The basics. Income, expenses, savings. How do I manage my finances? And I wanted to do this today because if predictions are right, and they could be wrong, and I'm praying they're wrong, next year is not going to be pretty. What you don't know is that people like Amazon, Apple, Google, IBM, they're laying off thousands upon thousands of employees. Some of them have already done it. They've already been chopping. And when you see companies start chopping, they're already forecasting what's about to come. And so we need to be wise. We need to see the time, see what's happening. You see, Pastor, he up there talking about money. No, I'm trying to help you. Because one of the wonderful things that can happen is that if you're not carrying a load of debt, if things go south, you're in a far better position to survive and to make it, right? If it happens as the economists predict, and sometimes economists, they get it wrong, and I hope they get it wrong. But if they don't, and the signs seem to be pointing in that direction, they're not. The big boys are not hiring. That's the point. And have you been in Walmart lately? How many cashiers was in there? Home Depot, even Dollar General got a self-checkout. Right? My point is, we've got to be wise about what's happening around us. Technology is coming in, and I'm going to quit here in a second, folks. But I want you all to understand something. Everything has consequence. And business people don't take it lying down. Do you know all those machines at Walmart? And I'm not saying it's causation, because I'm going to say it's correlation, but sometimes it is causation, or there's a connection. $15 an hour don't have to be paid to a machine. And I'm not saying people should not have advocated for $15 an hour, but the Waltons weren't sitting there taking it in the shorts. They saw it coming. Oh, we're going to have to raise the minimum wage. That's going to come off of our bottom line. So what do? Oh, we automate. We don't have to deal insurance. We don't have to pay vacation pay. Them machines, they just run. No, there you go. No food, no breaks. No. What I'm saying to you is, we have to be wise as serpents, people. We have to see what's going on around us. The people are telling us. And that's why you got to upgrade your skill set. Right? Remember the first one? You got to upgrade. Because those jobs are being wiped out by technology. They're even trying to get, driverless cars. If you get driverless cars, you don't need taxi drivers. You get driverless cars, you don't need Uber. So where are you going to fall when all of this comes about? You've got to look and think, am I in an area that I can upgrade my skill sets to meet the next revolution in technology? So I didn't mean to go on to that, but I just can't. Young people, y'all need to, when you go to school, make sure it's marketable. Make sure it's marketable. Because you can have a like, but is that like going to make you money? You got to figure this out. Got to figure it out. Okay, so let me end there this morning. I wanted to share this because I think we sometimes divorce where we live from where we worship. And while it's wonderful to sing the praises and praise God and lift up holy hands and the rest of it, sometimes we do that on a Sunday and we go home without changing anything in our lives. We don't change anything in our circumstances. We don't change anything in our behavior. We just come and we have a good time. We go home and talk about, child, I had a good time at church today. But you came to church with debt, and you left church with debt. And you're going to have it when you come back next week, unless you do something about it. So that's the essence of this message today, is to go home and put a plan in place. It's not enough to shout. I don't have the problem with you shouting. But I have an issue with you not taking a hold of your life and managing it for God. That servant was supposed to manage the resources for God. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you for watching First Baptist Church of College Hill online. I hope today's worship experience blessed you and would help you develop a closer relationship with Jesus Christ. We want to stay connected with you and help you on your Christian journey. So if you're a guest, be sure to complete the connection card in the description. Join us for live online services every Sunday, and visit our website, FBCCH.org, to find out all of the latest news and events happening here at FBCCH. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything happening here at the Hill. And share this with a friend so it can bless them as well. Thank you again for watching. God bless you.